Hi, Ron Benning here with your Sacramento Fourplex market update for June of 2026. In this video, we're going to review what happened in the Sacramento Fourplex market during May, what the numbers are telling us about pricing and buyer activity, what that means for investors moving forward. And as always, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please do so now so you don't miss any market updates or cash flow alerts. May 2026 remained a buyer's market for Sacramento Fourplexes. Months of inventory based on closed sales came in at 38 months. The more important story is what we're seeing in pending sales and overall buyer activity. Even with that caveat, anything above 6 months of inventory clearly favors the buyers. Sales activity. Only one fourplex sold in May, down from 2 sales in May of last year and matching April's total. While small sample sizes can create a dramatic month-to-month swings, the takeaway is that buyers remain very selective. They're still active, but they're focusing on properties that make financial sense at today's interest rates. And sellers have not adjusted their expectations of pricing based on higher interest rates yet. The encouraging news is that pending sales did increase this last month. We now have 4 fourplexes under contract. That's up 33% from 3 last month and equal to the number of pendings at this time last year. That tells us that buyers haven't disappeared completely. They're simply being more disciplined and selective about the properties they're willing to pursue. Let's talk about inventory. On the inventory side, active listings continue to increase. Inventory is up 18.8% from last year and 8.6% from last month. And this was already in a buyer's market. That means buyers have more choices than they've had in quite some time. When the sellers face increasing competition, raising inventory combined with low closed sales activity is what's keeping this market firmly in the buyer's territory. Let's talk about pricing. With only one sale recorded in May, pricing data should be viewed cautiously. The average and median sold prices came in at 7.25. That's down 32.9% from May of last year, but essentially unchanged from April. The 6-month pricing trend remains neutral, but I'm expecting it to start going down. The average asking price for active listings was $964,000. That's down 18.9% from last year's $1.188 million and virtually unchanged from last month. The good news is that sellers continue adjusting their expectations compared to a year ago, helping bringing pricing more in line with current market conditions. Let's talk about the 2 Sacramento Fourplex markets. Here's something that many investors and even some agents miss. Now, for my regular viewers, you've heard this before, but it's important to mention it again for new viewers. There's really 2 different fourplex markets operating in Sacramento County. The first is the East Sacramento and Midtown zip codes. The second is everywhere else. A disproportionate share of recent sales has been concentrated in just a handful of East Sacramento and Midtown zip codes. Outside those areas, prices have generally been softer, and properties that aren't priced aggressively using the income approach have often required significant discounts to sell. That's why broad countywide averages can sometimes be misleading. These 2 markets are behaving very differently, and investors need to understand which market they're actually operating in. Let's talk about the days on the market and the negotiating power. Now, the days on the market came in at only 8 days during May compared to 7 last month, and that's very misleading. And the reason is that there was only one sale and it was priced right. But here's what's really important. If we look at the average days on the market for active fourplex listings, it's 121 days. This tells me that with rising inventory, prices are going to have to come down to start absorbing that aged inventory. The sold to original list price ratio came in at 97%, up from 96% last month and up from 94% a year ago. But I believe this is also misleading because it will take more than a 3% discount to get most of that aged inventory sold. So don't be afraid to make an offer that works for your numbers, even if it's below what the averages suggest. Let's talk now about the GRM and interest rates. This month's break-even GRM is 10.76 based on financing costs at around 7%. This remains one of the most important metrics for Sacramento Fourplex investors. Interest rates are hovering at near 7%, and that creates very little room for error when evaluating deals. At today's rates, properties priced above 10.76 on our GRM report will generally produce a negative cash flow on day one. If a seller is asking more than that threshold, you either need to negotiate the price down or move on to another opportunity. Despite all the gloom and doom, there are still a handful of properties on the market that meet that threshold today. Call or message me for the list. Let's talk about the outlook for the next 45 days for the Sacramento Fourplex market. Looking ahead, I expect inventory to remain elevated while buyer activity stays selective. The increase from 3 pending sales last month to 4 this month is encouraging, but overall, transaction volume remains too low to absorb the growing inventory. Interest rates will continue to be the key variable. If rates decline, we could see a little bit of a recovery here. But if rates go any higher, it's really going to hurt the market. For buyers, this remains one of the best opportunities we've seen in the Sacramento Fourplex market in a long time. Inventory is growing. Competition from other buyers is limited, and buyers are currently in a position to get much larger concessions than in recent past. Make offers based on numbers, not emotions. And we can talk about some short-term financing options that allow your numbers to be much better. If rates decline later this year, refinancing could improve cash flow and overall returns. For sellers, pricing correctly is absolutely critical. Inventory is rising and buyers are highly selective. The 4 pending sales this month tell us that demand still exists, but buyers are focusing on properties that make financial sense in today's interest rate environment. You can't look at what you could have sold it for 6 months ago when interest rates were way lower than they are now. If your property's priced correctly, though, using the income approach and presented well, it can still attract strong interest. If it's overpriced, expect it to just sit. Make no mistake about it. I expect prices to be falling over the next few months. So don't chase the market down. Price to get it moved, or you'll likely regret not pricing more aggressively later. Today's market rewards realistic pricing and punishes wishful thinking. In closing, if you'd like my weekly GRM report or an MLS feed of all the active listings of the Sacramento Fourplexes, and you're not already receiving it, check the links below or the QR code on the screen. And if you're a seller who'd like a property evaluation or rent analysis for one of your fourplexes, you'll find those links in the description as well. And whether you're planning on buying or selling in the next 7 days or 7 months, give me a call, give me a text, and I'd be happy to help you put together a strategy for a smooth and profitable real estate transaction. I'm Ron Benning, and I'll see you on the next market update.